Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are again here for the Training Tuesday of this month, the month November, the month where we will see a lot of interesting games, and we had some very nice questions about visualization. We had interesting question about how we wish to play positions which look a little bit dull, where there's maybe not much to do. And we're going to see how we are going to tangle all these training questions. Of course, it's a live stream, it is a broadcast, so you can always tune in and ask questions in our chat. I will be glad to discuss these things with you, and I hope you enjoy the show. Today, I will start with one of the questions of Mr. Paul. He asked, I'm looking forward to the show. Thank you very much. I also enjoyed it very much. You're looking again. And the question is, can I share your opinion on blindfold training? Should it be something like studies in daily routine or composers you should suggest? Well, Paul, that's a very good question. As I want to start with the first position, the visualization is mainly based on imagining the positions. After, you need to recognize the functions, and of course we need to give a correct judgment of the position. And so it means that there are three ways how you can train them. When it comes to studies, especially made in two, you don't have problems with decide what it will be with the judgment, because made in two is of course it's a clear goal. We also know that very much that with two moves, it's not, the visualization shouldn't be a problem. So mainly when you're doing studies, it means that you will train the part of recognizing functions on geometrical motives, and that everything is you get everything under control. So that's the main point of studies. I mean, to be honest, I'm very happy that I've read the book of Kasparian about domination endgame studies, and it's a fantastic book. Unfortunately, it is not in the regular sellings anymore. You should go to the Russian market, or maybe find it somewhere on the second book antique market. What he did very well is he organized the studies in a certain way that you can study them by every type of position, and in this way we will just you can train them, and especially your visualization will become very good. As last time I was requested we could do a little bit more exercises, I just want to start out with the next position. Actually, it's a quite amazing position. A little bit funny maybe. It's black to move, and of course we some kind of calculation exercise, and especially since last time also we wanted to know how to calculate. Well, force and lines we always are very happy to make use of. We would just try to calculate till the end. If you somewhere in the variations you can't continue, try to look to all attacking objects, combine them with all the legal moves which you can combine with these objects, like unprotected king, weak squares, maybe unprotected material, how you can win. Try to reverse all move orders, very important. And in the end, of course, it's very important to keep on calculating when we have forcing lines. Well, in the next position, there's one very tempting line, and actually it's very nice exercises to learn this visualization, because the king will run over the board, and I will give you a brief time while I was talking, and you already had some chance to look at it, to solve the position. Because it's black to move, and of course the tempting line, to give you a little hint, is rook takes b1, king takes b1, rook a1, and how we will continue. So I'll give you a little brief time while I will explain. Maybe other people already solved it already, or prefer to listen to me. I will keep talking about the point of studies. Actually, studies are very good to solve, mainly because all the other elements which aren't important, they refrain. I mean, it's outside the puzzles. You only train the calculation, you only train the visualization, and there are no extra psychological elements. So that's one of the points why we like to train with them, because the puzzle demands you to solve it in a way the study is meant, and not the other way around. And that's also one of the things why I notice very often that people are sometimes a little frustrated by the fact that studies aren't easy, and they feel like a little bit unnatural. But to be honest, I think it's one of the best skills every chess player can learn, because in that way, you really are trying to solve the puzzle how it's meant. So I hope you already continued a little bit in the exercise. I gave you a little time, so let's see how it goes. Rook takes b1, king takes b1, rook takes e1, king takes a1, queen a4 check, king b1, queen takes a2 check, king c1, rook queen a1, king d2, queen takes b2, king d3. And very often in this kind of positions we end up a little bit like, what should we do now? Sometimes the position becomes vague, you have some difficulties to imagine the position correctly. Well, what I do next is I'm not trying to load the position from the beginning, but I will make a new picture. So we do it in the way how Capablanca meant it, is that we always calculate one move ahead, and we do it from the new position. The white king is on d3, the black queen is on b2, knight b1, rook a1, rook e8 are gone. So we have king on d3, black queen on d2, b2. We continue. Queen c2 check, king d4, queen c4 check, king e5, queen d5 check, king f6. Now we come at this very important moment, because the king is on f6 of white and the black queen is on d5. Further pieces are gone. And now we have to think, shall we play queen f7 check, or shall we play queen f5 check? Well, when we go to f5, it means the king will go to e7, and there are actually no pieces helping the black queen, and with a queen alone we can't win. So in this way it will not work. So we should try queen f7. Okay, let's try. First we go one way, king g5, then we can play queen f5, king h4, queen h5 mate. Fabulous. So in this way the white king is mated. So when the king is on f6, we will not go to g5, but we will go to e5. Then very often we continue calculating, like queen f5, king d4, queen d5, king c3, queen c4, king b2. Very important. Remember, the pawn is gone, so it will not be so white king won't be mated, because the black queen at the moment is at c4. We make a picture again. The white king is on b2. We can give check on c2, queen a3, queen a2, king b4, queen a4. And again we will see that the white king can run to c3 to make a victory round, or we can go immediately to c5 and escape from the checks, and white is winning. So we need to go back a little bit to the moment where we might have choice, because that happens very often. You calculate one way where you have force in line. very important is that you make small stepping stones to make new pictures of the position, and we continue. So we were starting at when the black queen was on f7, because I'm pretty sure that this position was correct. The white king was on f6, and again b2, b1, a1 and a8 are gone, so they're empty. So we go to king e5, queen f5, king d4, but wait a second, in this position we have another check, c5. In that case we close the door, and after king c3 we can play queen c2 and the position is mated. So again, what did we learn from all these exercises? One is we are very fond of working with forcing moves as long as it's possible, because we keep more control over our variations. Second, we need to keep on calculating, but we never know which of the forcing moves is correct, as we pointed out with queen d5 and c5 check. So it's always important to get back. When you lose the position during your calculations, don't go back. This is a very important skill. Very often I notice my pupils always go back, but it's very difficult for your workload of your memory. So it's better, much better, to make a new picture and try to continue calculation, because in this way you will save energy. In the beginning it's a little bit maybe unusable for yourself. You feel a little bit it's difficult, but if you work on it consistently with studies, you will see that at some point you will manage. So we make a new picture, a stepping stone, and then we continue. I will show you one time the variation because it's so nice. So we play queen b1, king b1, rook a1 check once more, and the king is running for his life, but the queen keeps on hold on it. King goes back, and now very important, c5 and queen c2 mate. Bravo! So these skills which I explained can be used very much about learning this this game. Very important is also when you if you make it like this, I'll apply. It's not working like this, unfortunately. I just wanted to say that when you take an empty position and you imagine the knight on a1, in that case you can go to any square, let's say f6, and you imagine how will I get there. So you make a maneuver for yourself, like I will play knight c2, knight e3, knight g4, knight f6. But in this case you still see the board, but of course you can imagine that these kind of things you can also do without board, and then it will become very important. If you feel that it's too tough, you can always make a small look at the board. You imagine the board, you look away, and you try it again. So, and you can make maneuvers, and of course you can sometimes also make blockades on squares where you cannot reach. Good. So in this way we discussed the topic of blindfold training and studies, and as I mentioned before, my favorite composer is Kasparian. He made fantastic studies, and especially the book of Domination 2545 is one of the best books I can advise you to study, but it's a little search to get it. I got another questions about how to play solid positions, and one of them is about the exchange love. And in exchange love we so of course it's very often difficult to make some play. So we will go to this position, d4, d5, c4, and this way knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6, and we just exchange. And the question is, of course, you can learn a lot of concrete theory, but how the question was made by Mr. There's no name, sorry, but there's a name here, Mr. Sky3 or SK3. So the question is, like the simple position, white can choose many moves to develop pieces, but what's the difference between concrete line and general opening principles and how you can apply them? So, well, it's a very good question because, of course, it's difficult when you have such situations where how you will handle them. And of course, they are a little bit boring. Sometimes, of course, you can try to avoid them. But in general, I think that I always look some kind of positions where I can find some imbalance, something I can play for. I have one trump, my opponent has one trump. In that case, I still can apply the general rules. But of course, the position will help you a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting. And one of the variations is not exclusive repertoire, but it gives some idea on how you can develop your way of thinking to make positions much more interesting. And it was one of the games which I won to make my second IM norm. And it was inspired by a game of Botvinnik and Polchiewski. So we play knight c6, bishop f4, e6, e3. Well, this is a very common position, nothing new. And in this position you can play bishop d6 or you can play anything. But one of the most interesting moves is to play knight h5. In this case the bishop is attacked and you try to play for the pair of bishops. Why? Because if you conquer the pair of bishops, of course it's clear you can play for something more interesting position. And it means your opponent has other trumps which he needs to use. So there are two, let's say, main lines. He can play bishop e5, trying to play against the knight on h5 that is out of play. Or you can play with bishop g5. In that case, of course, you play with tempo, you attack the queen, and after you might attack the knight on h5 again. So we continue. Queen b6, rook b1. And okay, in this case there are many moves. As I mentioned already, the game of Petrosyan against Botvinnik, it was one of the training games once they played. They played a3, and actually all these moves are more or less similar. White needs to protect the pawn on b2, is weak, and by doing so, in this case you cannot take it because probably knight b5. We have some nice square on c7, and we can attack the king and the rook. So in that case and the queen also is almost trapped with rook b1 or something similar. Maybe not immediately, but soon it will become. So a3 is an interesting move. Then black will play h6 because we still intend to play this plan with catching the bishop. So we play bishop h4, g5, bishop g3, we can take it, bishop g7, developing the bishop. Once more, for me it's not that interesting to explain you every single move, but much more the idea on how you will get some play and how you can think about some imbalances to create some play. And that's actually the way how Botvinnik fought in this period in 52. He collected a pair of bishops. You have sometimes opportunity to go for the center by playing the move e6, e5, and of course freeing the bishop on c8, which gets active, and then you can play with your pair of bishop. It can become a trump. So queen goes back to d8. The job is done on b6. We will just try to protect g5 just in case. Sometimes we can play g4 and support the queen to the, or activate the queen to the king side. We support d5, so it's much more easy to play the move e5, and we can play something like queen d6 also with the idea bishop d7 still supporting our center. Petrosyan played knight h2, and one of the ideas is you can play with this g3, g4, and after you can play with the knight from h2 to f1, and from f1 you can go to, and from f1 to g3, and then you can go to the square on h5. So black played h5, then rook c1, bishop g7, knight b5. Again, we will just continue just to see the big play. g4, black makes space on the king side, and here it comes, e5. And this is something to remember when we are studying chess and we are studying openings. It's always important on how the center play will go in such games. You need to get first an idea who will play which move in the center, on which flank we will play after, and how you will get your play, because without center we cannot play. So when you scroll through games, I normally stop at these moves, at g4 and e5. Why? Because these pawn moves decide actually the way of thinking. Now I understand why the pieces should be on the squares where they are, and how I can continue it. And now it's clear that black just wants to activate his pair of bishops. Again, continued, queen b3, he took, then again taking, queen e7, he took the pawn, bishop back, queen d6, and actually already black at a very convenient position. He won a pawn, pair of bishops still. Okay, the king is a little bit vulnerable, but white is king too. We can activate our rook with rook h6 and rook e6. Main point, what I remember from such games when I'm playing through during my preparation, is that I think, okay, in this way the play is clear. I can play with my pair of bishops in the end. I can play for e5. Sometimes I can just gain space on the king side with my pawns, and okay, it means that maybe there, with computer analyze, you can do a lot more, but at least the big picture is clear to me on how I should play this position. We go back, because rook b1 is one other move which is perfectly playable. We continue again with our plan, h6, g5, take, bishop g7. We need to protect rook h8 because knight g5 was coming with pin on the h file. b4, gaining space, and actually this was one of the games which I played in the Dutch league, and I played queen d8. Just according to the plan of Botvinnik, I just played in the same way. I just wanted to get to d6, play bishop d7, might play something with g4, e5. He played bishop e2, king f8, g4. Okay, important move, because in that case it means that my plan is gone, and white might play knight h2, knight f1, and knight g3. Queen d6, bishop d7, b5. Actually, this is a bad move, because in this case my knight will jump to c4 or get active, and actually the square on b5 is very important for white. White should have done better, maybe aiming at something like knight a4, knight c5. So yeah, this is one of the things. So b5, knight a5, queen b4, take, queen e7, and in this case the rook went to c8. I want to show you the whole game, but you can imagine that such kind of position is easy and interesting to play, because normally we have a Slav where it's quite difficult to get some play. At least black has pair of bishop, he can try to gain some space with f6 and e5, and as long the position is not a dead draw and you can play for some initiative and you can play for some interesting lines, well, I'm very happy to play such kind of positions. So I think that when it comes to opening preparation and concrete lines, sometimes you will see that there's a lot of theory. Even these positions, you will find many games which are played, but I think that it's always much more important to pay attention to the pawn moves. Those moves decide more or less how you will play, in which speed, where your pieces will be active. Because that's another question I got today, is how I should make formation of my pawn structure comparing to my bishops. Well, in general, we wish to adjust them to each other, so it means that if you have black square bishop, the pawn should be on white, and the other way around. When your opponent has a bishop, normally you want to put the pawns on white because it will restrict the bishop. But of course, in this position we can see that we have bishop on e2, but there are two pawns on the same color, and we have of course also pawn on d5 and e6. So again, we just see that the bishop on e2 actually is restricted by his own pawns, which is even more pleasant than doing it yourself with black pawn, because he cannot take his own pawns. But of course, to win the bishop is much more difficult. We need to play around. But okay, chess is normally a lot of work. I think that when we come to this question once more, you can always try to learn some concrete lines. It will always help, especially for the first 10-15 moves. In general, for the club player, this is already more and more than enough. After, if you want to make some progress, pay much more attention to the pawns. Just play through the games. Wait till don't pay attention to every piece move or maneuver which is made in the game, but pay attention to the pawn moves. Those decide on where you should play and what's important and what's not. I think that's fair enough to say that this interesting question. Thank you very much. And now we will just continue to the game. So we will go to this game, and this is another variation which I would like to share with you. It's one of the positions, sorry. And this is actually the exchange variation of the French, which is also one of the lines which is complicated to make. In this position, we actually we should try to figure out on how we get this unbalanced play. The same kind of logic we are applying for the exchange love. So first we wait for white to make one move, knight f3. And we can play bishop d6. Well, bishop d6 is actually interesting because it gives you the flexibility still to configure your knights in the way which you want. Of course, one of the moves which is very aggressive is c4. This move can always be made. But of course, in that case, you can even take it and you will get an isolated pawns. And as long we get an imbalanced position, it means that it's interesting to me. It means that we can play such kind of positions. So that's good. We continue in the main line. Bishop d3, knight c6, c3, bishop g4, players, and here it comes. Well, black plays knight e7, and we are aiming for knight g6, knight f4. In general, the knight would like to be on f4 because we can take the pair bishop again. On the other hand, we get imbalance because the knight are configured in a different way, And also good is that white already castles short, which means that we still have opportunity to castle long, but that depends. If white goes for b4 now, we can simply just castle short. We can just and because in that case we don't need to castle long anymore, because we already can make tension on the queen side with the pawn on b4. And if he goes to b5, we can go knight a7, knight c8, knight b6, and the squares on c4. It's a very nice square to get to, and the square on a4. It's very nice to get a knight. So we have two squares where we get to, and it means that we get play again, and that's all we want for them. So that's one of the things. I get another question from the Mr. Pramod, and he had already one more question which I will try to answer a little bit later, and that's actually the question how we learn attacking patterns. Well, we will get to this as we continue in this game, so stay tuned, and we will discuss how we can learn the attacking patterns. Queen h4, bishop h4, and here it comes, long castle. Long castle is very important move, because we simply we just try, we get an imbalanced play, and now we can advance our pawns, and this way we can attack the bishop. So he goes knight bd2, rook e8. Actually this is making space for the knight to go to d8 and e6, so we get at f4 again, bishop g4, g3, bishop h3, h3, h takes g3. And here is actually the question on how we can learn attacking patterns. One way is, of course, we can learn a lot of mating positions we can solve. On the other hand, when we just want to attack, in the first place we need access to the king's position. So it means that there should, you should get open files and open diagonals. In this position we see that there's a pawn on g3, which is weak, and that's why we want to attack it with our h-pawn. We want to get it at h4, h5, h5, h4, opening the h-file, and the rooks can be activated and giving checkmate to the king. So that's one of the things. So let's see how it goes. h5, queen c2, f6. f6 is just a little controlling move of the square on e5, and we still can continue with g5, h4. Rook fe1, g5, rook e3, h4. Well, here it comes. When you are attacking, it's always very important to find the way to make tension, because that's the way how we get more activity. And most of the times we need more activity when we are attacking on the king side. So h4, important move to think about. If he takes, g takes h4, g takes h4, rook ae1, and now simply rook eg8. We are attacking, we are bringing a piece in the attack, which is also important because we actually have 4 steps which we need for a general kingside attack. We first need to get access, or you could say we aim our pieces in the first place. After, you need to destroy the king's position, bring new pieces, eliminate defenders, and in the end, of course, it's mate or material. Because it's important also to remember that mate is not the only thing. Very often we are very happy with gaining material, or even getting positional plus or a good endgame. In this case, knight h2, bishop h3, bishop f1, we are attacking, we are defending, take, h3. And again, we see we're getting some material back. And important is also here not to pay too much attention to every detail, but just to remember the big thing, the big picture. We're looking for imbalanced positions where we are not stuck in some concrete lines, where we can play with general knowledge based on the king's attack, for example on pawn structure. In this case we saw that h5, h4 was a way to break open the position, but it could mean in any position you can think like that. Is you look to the pawn structure, you see where you can make tension, and after you try to open it. From this opening you get active pieces like open files, strong squares, or maybe some attacking objects. So when we think back on all this stuff, it's very important that you understand that you have to make some choices and that you try to get this imbalance. Not all positions are based on knight f3, knight c3, and bring out the pieces just in an equal way, because if your power of your pieces are equally divided over the queen side and the king side, it means that in this way it's very difficult to attack one point so strong that your opponent will lose on it. So try to get this imbalance, try to bring your piece to one side, because then it's much more easy to win the game. Then we go back to the question of Fianchetto bishop, or actually the Capablanca rules, which means that we will see some games of Capablanca himself, because of course he was showing it in the best way. So let's get to it. It was a position he played with white, and actually we have a classical Spanish position. We could play g4, we could play knight g3, and we could play a4. We can attack on this side, on the queen side, so we can make tension again, and from there on we get some active piece play. We could play to close the king side, so we gain some more space. We can do it in two ways, one with knight g3 and one with g4. So so what should we do? I give you a little time to think, and then so what should you do? So we play g4. Yeah. White is restricting the black bishop, especially the bishop here. It's very passive and it's blocked, which means that he will feel some pains on the white squares on the queen side. Pawns on b5 and a6, they are weak. So we close first completely our king side with g4, knight g3, controlling also the center, so it will give you time to attack on the other side. Black played h6, and only after controlling the weak side we gain our time to get our play on the queen side, so we play a4. And this is actually one of the main games where we understand that again we need to make tension on the side. We just we try to make weaknesses there, and in this way we get our play. So black knight went to h7, trying to exchange pieces, because black has very passive position. Pieces are not doing much, so if he could exchange some pieces, it means that he will get more active. Yeah, he get more space for his pieces. Queen e2. Again, this is one of the questions which we got. When should I release tension and when should I maintain tension? Well, in general, when we want to, we maintain tension, because it means that your opponent has to calculate with much more options than, of course, if you release it, because then your plans are clear, and of course it very often gives more options concerning open files or diagonals. So in this way, I first try to lure the black rook to b8, because then if I open the position now with 8x b5, it means that white got this active rook and the black rook is gone. So by simply playing the move queen e2, we conquered an open file. So when we in summary, when we look back, we try to maintain tension as long as possible, and only when you have a concrete advantage and you have some reason, then we just exchange it or release this tension, and yeah, you play against the pieces. Now, of course, comes the next question, because when we are talking about restricting pieces, it means not only bishops, the passive one on g6 as a reminder, but also the knight on d7. In this position, black has a very quite big positional threat. He tries to play b4 with knight c5 and trying to make some pressure against e4. So that's something we would like to avoid. So we play b4. Very nice move. And queen c8. Again, we have now interesting questions how we should play this position. Should we play bishop d3, attacking the weakness on b5, or should we make, according to Nimsui's, bishop b3? So we have the choice between these two moves. Should the bishop go to b3, getting strong square on d5, or should we go to d3 like here and attacking the weakness on b5? So if we look at those moves, it means that bishop d3 is a very logical move. It's active, it keeps control of a square e4. On the other hand, I like very much the idea of bishop b3. It's a little bit old idea of overprotection, but c6 still feels like it's not really possible to be played. Of course it can be done, but then it's clear that bishop b3 makes sense, because you have this, you keep an eye on d5, you can play bishop d2, and with rook a5 coming, you can still attack on the queen side. So in my opinion, this is a very interesting way of playing. Of course, bishop d3 is very playable too. We just attack on b5, it should be just defended in this way. So black played c6, d6, queen c6, rook a5. Little trick, because of course the pawn on c3 is hanging, but after bishop d2 we will gain the pawn on b5 back, so that's fine, which actually happened in the game. He took first on b5, small threat on d7, and actually this could be changed with bishop d2, which is also defending everything. And on queen b4 now, we still can play bishop d2, defending the rook, and next move we can take on d7. So bishop e3, rook d8, and actually I think this is one of the main positions where there might be a small improvement. We can play bishop a6 now, with the idea rook a4, b5, and just push the pawn and try to win. In the game, white went on with rook c1, which is not bad at all, but he won in the end. But still, there were some more possibilities for black to defend this kind of position. So, thinking about these moves, we could think that the restricting the bishop is one of the main points, which means that we just need to look at adjustment. And when we talk about tension and releasing tension, very often it has to do with open files, open diagonals, and strong squares. So when you can keep things closed at your weaker side, it means it's a big benefit, since you will gain time to execute your plans on the queen side much more quickly. Yeah, so this is actually what is very important about this topic. And I wish to share with you one other position, which was happening in one of my games of my pupils, and it was played quite recently. Let's get to it. And it's this position. So he was white, and again there was big tension in the center, and actually this was the question of Mr. Pramod, and he was asking the question on what should I do with tension? When do I know I need to release it, or when do I know where I should push, maybe to gain some space? So again, we need to think about activity, and we need to think about how you will attack on the flanks, how you will get tension, and make progress on your plan. So when you judge in general that your flank plan is better, it means that it's better to maintain the stability in the center. So in that case, you better keep it close or get it fixed with taking on e5 or playing d5. When it comes to that you're worse on the flanks, it means that you prefer to open the position. So when we look at this position, we need to estimate the flank plan. Would you like to exchange it on e5? Would you like to play d5, or would we maintain the tension how it is? I will give you some brief time just to look at it, and how we will continue. So you might have some look at it, and I will try just to explain you a little bit around. So when we look at the pieces, we see that, of course, because the kings are reversed castled, it means that speed is even much more important. So this is one of the things we pay attention to. Second, we see that white still has two pieces to be developed, the knight and bishop on c1. And we also see that we wish to make tension, so we have already some eye on c5. This is the pawn we wish to attack, because we need to open the b file. So in this case, we feel that I'm much faster than black, because black needs to play h5, g5. In the first place, this is not easy at all, and second also is that we can still play knight d2, knight f1, and then there's nothing to attack on the king side. So I feel I'm much faster on the flanks. So d5 is a very logical move. Knight d7, and of course here we go, b4. Big move, because we make this tension. We try to destroy simply the pawn structure, get the open b file, and after we can just attack with bishop e3, knight a3, knight c4, rook b1, queen b3, and we can just try to crush my opponent on those weak pawns on b7, e5. So black might take to keep the position a little bit closed. H6 and queen b3. And I think in this position white is just clearly better. Still we have to make still some good moves, but knight c3, bishop e3, rook c1, we can even double rooks. It's clear that we are much faster in our attack, and white should be able to play for a win. So if we go back, keep in mind that if you want to release the tension, it means that you need to understand who is better on the flanks. You need to improve it on that way, and I think that's actually one of the main points which you see. On the other hand, when of course the king is still in the middle, the black king, or you have a big development lead, of course this is also one of the opportunities to open up the position, because you just simply want to attack your attacking objects. So this was one of the highlights of this week, which I saw in one of the games of my pupils, and I think it was interesting to to see that he had this opportunity and how he could make use of it. Then one last position I want to share with you. It was one of the games of Meshkov, and he was black. And as we will see, we have this fianchetto bishop. We know that in general in the Benoni or in the Benko, this bishop is gold. If you have this bishop, it means you can never lose. You cannot be mated. You have always pressure against c3, b2. And of course, this bishop is normally the big hero of the position. But interestingly enough, sometimes we can exchange it to make the position closed and play against the bad bishop on g5. I remember one of the games of Timon against Yusupov in one of the candidate tournaments, where something similar in the Benoni, Yusupov played bishop takes c3, and I think he even went on for a win. So it is a clear idea that you don't want to lose the bishop, but when there are clear advantages, you can do it. So again, in this position, we can just take on c3. And now hold on for a little moment and to see what we got back. We have a very nice square on e5, which is ours. We have, of course, a very nice square on c4. And there's some square on d3, which is actually... So there's some combination of squares which we could make use of. Furthermore, the bishop in g4 once more could be very bad, because it's not attacking anything. And if we cannot open the center, because black plays f6, it means that the play will be mainly on the flanks. And of course, on the flank we already see that black has several active pieces, and even in that case, even the bishop on f8 can still go to b8. So bishop goes back, and now it's important to see how we will continue, because we can play knight e5, but still then white can take, or play knight e1 and play with f4 and gaining some space, and we might even think about going to e5. So the advantage of black is normally static, which means that we have long-term advantage. So we try to exchange our dynamic pieces. Dynamic pieces in general are the bishops and the queen, because they can support our pawns in a much more active way. So that's also the case why black plays queen a4. Queen a4 is one of the moves to attack e4. Of course, still it's protected, but anyway, the rook on e2 should be protecting it. We have the square on c4 is now under our control. So we can play knight e5, knight c4, or knight b6, knight c4. So it's in general very pleasant move, and also quite important, white can't play a4. and c4. So in this way he can make progress with his pawns and get his bishop active, because the bishop on d2 of course is very passive. He tried to play bishop f4. Very simple idea. If black plays knight e5, we can just exchange our bishop, so at least we don't have this passive piece. But of course black has a very elegant idea. He played g5, and in this way the bishop doesn't have control over e5, so he needs to return or play h3. To return, of course, is possible, but in that case knight e5 is coming. h3 is an idea that we still can exchange our bishop in e5, but black just makes a small round. Bishop e3, knight f7, getting his knight on e5, and I think that black has already a very quite convenient position. We can just go to c4, play rook a7, rook e8, yeah, building up the pressure, and okay, normally I think that black should be very fine and maybe even winning. So when we look back to this exchange of bishop or knight, or which is stronger, what to do with the rooks, I would say that in general, look at your bishop, how what is his mobility. Can he do, does he have a diagonal like here, or is he restricted by pawns by himself or by his opponent pawns? Second, with knights, of course, we wish to have strong squares. If they're not available, normally the knights are just very loose and they might get lost. But if they have strong squares, of course, they can be very, yeah, they can be excellent pieces to have in your position. Rooks, by logic, we place them on the open files, or we try to connect them with other pieces. This is also one of the points. When you have a strong square, try to connect it to your rooks around by the flanks. So again, we see the connection between center and flanks, and in this way, yeah, we try to make progress in a position and get, yeah, to end up on win. We are almost in the end of the show, but I had a very nice idea how we can continue our training Tuesday. Yeah, I would be very happy to get your games from tournaments. I would be very happy when you play in Chess24. Also these games. Yeah, I would like to get your games to see if you have any interesting yeah, situations or positions where you can discuss with us the topic of bishop against knight, and yeah, I just any position or any questions where I can help you just to get better. Please send them in, and I'm looking forward to answer your questions next time. Thank you very much, and till next time.